This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN SportsWrap, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the pregame show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG, Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
Nope.
But earmuff, you stay on hard. But earmuff, you stay on hard.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another live episode of the BCSN Sports Wrap. I'm Brian Fulford. That's AD Drew. We appreciate you guys hanging in there with us. We were a little late getting started this evening. I put that on me. Had to take care of some business out in Tampa, Florida, and a game that I was working went a little bit longer than anticipated, and so. Then on the way back, my Waze app decided to reroute me through rural Florida. And so my plans were just thrown off a bit. But it's good to be here, made it home safely. And Drew, how you doing tonight, man?
Man, I am doing fine, my brother. I'm doing fine. A little disappointed in some results that I saw yesterday. But, you know what saved my day yesterday, Brian?
What's that?
Chaos, man. It's chaos. You know I love chaos, man. We got to come up with a new phrase now. We can't call it reaction anymore because it's like a virus. It has spread to the SWAC. You know, last year it was the SIAC, and you know, in the past it's been the MEAC. Then it spread to the SIAC last year. Now the virus is spread from the SIAC to the SWAC. So,
I got
gotta
one
love
for
this
you.
chaos, man. What's that?
I got one for you. SWAC chaos.
Doesn't have the same ring as MEAC.
No, SWAC chaos. I tried to combine the C
chaos and
chaos. No, okay. SWAC chaos.
It's a good try.
SWAC chaos. No, SWAC chaos.
Yeah.
No, okay.
Maybe some of the people who tuning in with us early could give us a name for this.
Sound like
Sam.
You know,
We've got Miakish out there, so now we need a name for SWAC or just chaos in general.
Yeah, that's what we've got over in the SWAC West. As you know, last week, if you tuned in to whether it be Dr. Cavill's show in the morning or our show in the evening, we broke down some of the doomsday scenarios and the things that would happen if one team, Prairie View, didn't handle their business. And basically it was in hey, as someone once eloquently said, Drew, you had one job. You had one job,
failed
Prairie
to do
View.
it.
You had one job and do it. Well, sort of. But you basically had it in your control. You had matters in your control, and now it's no longer in your hands. It's in the hands of other people, and that's how that scenario kind of started playing out. As I was sitting in the press box at the Florida Classic between FAMU and Bethune-Cookman. We'll talk about that and the outcome and what happened following that today. And then of course you were in Birmingham, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Covering doing broadcasting for a Miles College basketball game, correct?
Correct.
Right. So, all right, let's just get right into it. Let's get right to it. Of
SWAC,
course,
wait. SWAC Wettish. Jay Blue put out SWAC Wettish.
SWAC.
Somebody said Harry, I can't pronounce. Kafani said, name it after Valley. I could go with that. Russell Hayes says, call it football season. Just
all right,
some of the early games that we got for
this. Just hold on to those four. Just want to give a shout out and thank everybody on Facebook, and of course, thank everybody on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up button on whichever platform you're watching us on, and please make sure that if you're not already, that you're following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at MyBCSN1, the number one. And then please go download that Jericho Broadcast Networks app on the Google Play and Apple App Store. Just search MyJBN and MyBCSN. All of our shows you can get live on the app as well as the replays. Okay, so here's what we knew going into Saturday. Mississippi Prairie View at Mississippi Valley State. All Prairie View was win, and they're in. They're back in the championship game for the second year. Now, she somehow stumble. Now that's when we went into the possible 2, 3, and 4 team scenarios involving Prairie View, Southern, Texas Southern, and Alcorn. Yeah, for potential anywhere from a 2 to 4 team scenarios, right? Okay.
Right. So now we're down to one or 2 team scenario.
Well, hold on. Let's set. Don't get too far ahead of us, Drew. Let's play this out in time, because this is beautiful how this thing all played out. So let's not jump to the end, right? Let's not flip to the end of the book and read the end of the book, because it's too beautiful. We don't want to leave anything out, right?
Yeah, the only thing that I'm going to say is I love how everything did play out chronologically yesterday. That's the beauty of it. Because if one domino fell, then you like, okay, this other team's going to take care of it. Then that domino fell. So it was really interesting how things played out chronologically on yesterday. Then another domino fell. So.
And you had to imagine, as it was playing out chronologically, you had to be thinking, if I'm somebody in these other stadiums, I'm playing these scores. I'm posting these scores. For example, when Prairie View didn't handle their business, you got to imagine the folks in Mississippi are flat out posting the score, whether it be on their scoreboard or the announcer is saying, final from Itabena, Mississippi, Prairie View 7, Mississippi Valley State 27. And you can imagine the outburst of, whoa, just, I don't know if it went down like that, but that's how I picture it in my head. So I'm just going to stick with that, right? That's and the same thing.
It's like that belief in Santa Claus. You just going to stick with it.
Yes. The Texas Southern, now see, that game was in Alabama A&M, if I'm not mistaken.
The game was in Huntsville.
But people on the sidelines at Texas Southern, whoever support staff, whomever, they had to be telling the players, hey, yo, Prairie View just lost. And I mean, the whole sidelines got to be going like, what? Yo, let's go. Let's ramp up. Let's finish business. Okay. So anyway, and then Southern's sitting at home because Southern plays Grambling. And Southern's probably watching this on, I imagine, Coach Dooley and the Southern players are having a watch party. They're watching all 3 games on a 3 TV set somewhere, and they're just watching one team. They're like, whoa, Prairie View just lost. And then they're like, okay, fellas, we're alive. All we got to do is take care of business in the bayou, right? And then anyway, I don't want a spoiler alert here. Obviously, you guys know what happened probably, but, here we go.
You know what this is like, Brian? It
What's
is
that?
like, I'm trying to think. It is like the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2004, 2003, when LeBron came into the league. Southern is that team with the longest odds to get to the playoffs, to have the opportunity to get to the playoffs going into yesterday. And I'll be doggone, they are now into the final 4 of the draft lottery, or the final 3 of the draft lottery. That's what Southern is sitting at right now after everything from yesterday. Did I speak too fast there, Brian?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
Good stuff. All right, so here's how it went down, okay? The only score that I saw Prairie View 7, Valley 0. That was your first quarter score. That was your score at the end of the first half. Prairie View 7, Valley 0. So I'm at that point, I'm just thinking, well, that game's going to do what it's going to do. Needless to say, you come back and find out that thanks in part to 4 turnovers by the Valley's defense, which included, I believe, a 47-yard interception, pick 6 late in the third quarter. Valley had run off 17 straight points. A field goal of 26 yards to cap a 14-play, 68 drive. Then let's see. Then Jelani Eason hits Sylvester Kim. I believe it was Campbell. Sylvester Campbell with a 15-yard score with 2:21. Valley takes the lead 10-7. Then, of course, you had on the ensuing drive, you had the pick 6. Now Valley's up 17-7. Going into the fourth quarter, Valley gets a 36-yard field goal. Now they're up 20-7. And then in the final 43 seconds, Valley puts the final nail in the coffin with another score, a Jared Wilson 5-yard run on the end of a 7-play drive, and 27-7 is how that game finished. Just an unbelievable outcome. And I don't know, some of you, the 20-point, I'm reading here from Valley, their press release, the 20-point victory was its biggest winning margin in the past 4 seasons, and they won back-to-back games versus Prairie View A&M for the first time in the series since they won 5 straight from 02 to 06. Now, it wasn't 02 to 06, that period when Valley was in, where Prairie View was in the Valley, so to speak.
They were just coming out, because that was in the 90s
Okay.
when they were in the dumpsters, when it was in that 90-game losing streak.
Yeah. So, yeah. But anyway, impressive performance by Valley. Just kind of looking here, I'm not really sure. I'm just kind of looking total team yards, blah, blah, blah. Let's see, total offense. I mean, Prairie View 285 to 264, but you lose 3 fumbles. You know, you lose 3 fumbles, you throw an interception, and that's the ball game. You know, that's
that's
how
domino
it
number
rolls.
one. That's domino number
Okay, so
one. Let's
right.
get to domino number two.
Domino number 2. Now, at this point, again, at the same time or right around the same time, you had Jackson State playing in Lorman, Mississippi, correct? Jackson
Correct.
State taking on Alcorn, and there were long odds on this one. Long odds. I mean, I think I don't know if many people thought that of course, Alcorn thought they could win, but outside of those folks, you had Jackson State going for the perfect regular season record, 11-0. You had all these things going on. And I believe Alcorn had a 7-3 lead in the second quarter, which about when I picked up this contest. Then you had an answer, Sevion win with a 2-yard run to make it 10-7. And then what might have been probably, well, it's kind of early, but the play that had everybody buzzing was Travis Hunter's 44-yard pick six on the ensuing drive. Jackson State's up 17-7, but not so fast, Drew, because here comes Alcorn as we go into the second half. They get a 27-yard field goal in the third quarter to cut it to 7. Then early in the fourth quarter, they get another field goal to make it 17-13. And, you know, you're thinking there's hope.
Baby.
There's hope.
Baby.
There's a chance. There's a chance, right? Alcorn's got a chance. Well,
and it goes
on
from
the
baby
next
to
drive,
what if.
Yeah, 7 plays, 68 yards. Shedeur Sanders hit Travis Hunter for a touchdown. So not only does Travis Hunter get a defensive touchdown, then he comes up with an offensive touchdown, and the freshman, you know, probably has his first big game on a big stage for Jackson State, and that kind of capped the game there at 24-13, and Jackson State completes the perfect regular season, 11-0. Of course, they're already in the SWAC championship game, so that's all at stake there. And so now, because Alcorn is out, Prairie View has lost. We talked about these 2 and 3 game scenarios, right, Drew? And what that meant at that point was Texas Southern was in play. And I mean, we're watching this and
they were in control.
They
weren't in play. They were in control.
Texas, and when you say in control, not only were they in control of the game, but they were in control of their own destiny, because as we pointed out, I think in tiebreaker scenarios with Prairie View and Southern, they had the upper hand, I believe, right? Because they were like 2 different 3-team scenarios. Texas Southern would be the team that had the advantage.
Yes.
Am I correct on that?
Right. But they were in control, but they still would have needed help, because in order to create that, they would have needed Southern to win had they won, to create that 3-team scenario, which gave them the advantage. Because at that point, you had Prairie View at 5-3, and Texas Southern with the opportunity to go 5-3, which means if that's how it would have finished, title goes to Prairie View because of the head-to-head back on the Labor Day Classic.
Right. Exactly. So you're thinking at that point, and so how this game kind of goes down, Texas Southern at the half is up 8-3. Then Andrew Body in the third quarter throws a touchdown pass to A.J. Bennett to cap a 7-play, 85-yard drive, a 20-yard touchdown. Now Texas Southern's up 14-3. Early fourth quarter, Body throws another touchdown. It's a 39-yard, and I believe the 2-point conversion was failed. And so at that point, it's 20-3, 13-29 in the fourth quarter, right? And then all of a sudden, here comes chaos. That's when the bottom falls out. Now, when exactly did the injury to Andrew Body occur?
It would have been on that next drive by Texas Southern after they went up by
Alabama
20.
A&M score.
Yeah, because Texas Southern was going down and with the opportunity to score, but Andrew Body fumbled the ball out of the back of the end zone for a touchback. And that touchback not only took points off of the board for Texas Southern, but gave Alabama A&M the ball back, in which they scored on the ensuing drive.
Right. Right. This was in the fourth quarter with let me see. I'm trying to look at the timing chart on that because they had just scored the touchdown to go up 20-3. Then on that next drive is, as you said, hold on, I'll spot it out here. So for anybody who might have missed it here, let's see, touchdown. Yeah, Alabama scores to go up the deficit to 10. Then, as you said, then you had the fumble, the injury that occurs, and then Alabama A&M comes back and answers on the ensuing drive to score another touchdown. And now we're looking at a 20-17 ball game at that
Correct.
point, 20-17 ball game, and Alabama. Let's see, Texas Southern ends up having the punt, goes 3 and out, have to punt. Alabama A&M comes back and answers on a 7-play, 81-yard drive, scores the go-ahead touchdown, and I believe, let me see, what was the time on that when they scored that touchdown here? That was with exactly 1 minute to play. With 1 minute to play, 7 plays, 81 yards, 257. And, I mean, at that point, poof, Texas Southern's window and opportunity is gone. And Southern now is sitting at home watching Prairie View, boom. Watching Alcorn, boom. Watching Texas Southern, boom. And now Southern's got to be sitting there like, holy cow. It now comes down to the Bayou Classic. All we have to do is beat our rival, Grambling, and we're going to the SWAC title.
Which is easier said than done, but yes.
Easier said than done. Yeah, easier said than done. But Drew, I did not, of all the scenarios, and let me ask this, of all the scenarios, that seemed the least likely to happen, did it not?
Very, very least likely. And there's one more that no one discussed last week and is the least likeliest of the least likeliest scenarios to happen. You ready for me to get into that one, Brian? No one ever thought to discuss if all 4 teams lose.
Good point. Yeah. I mean, we just kind of,
if all 4 teams lose, we just assumed somebody was going to win out of this scenario.
Exactly.
But there's a realistic chance that all 4 teams could lose, and Prairie View not only
goes right back to Prairie View,
backdoors their way into the SWAC championship game, but they backdoored their way into the SWAC championship game in a wheelchair. They needed some true assistance to get in there, or some crutches or something along those lines.
I saw Edwin Moore say chaos. I guess it's a repeat of 2013. Now I got to go do a quick little research here and kind of see what happened in 2013. Because that's over a decade ago. I love my history, but after about 5 years, my mind gets a little cloudy. So
we'll have to go back after about 5 minutes.
5 years. See, I almost told on myself. I can't do that. So that's the SWAC West. So Southern's in play. Let's see. Now, one other thing's in play, Drew, is your stone cold prediction. Potentially, what was it you said? There could be a SWAC West team going to the championship game with 3 losses.
And no, that's not. It does not. It could be. There
Not
will be
oh,
a
well, there
champion
will be. Yeah,
team going in with 3 losses. I said 6-2
exactly.
was going to be the best, and it would not surprise me back in SWAC Media Day if there's a team that winds up in the championship game 5-3. Little did I know I was Nostradamus, Drumus, or however you want to say, Nostradamus, the Drew version. I know that
Nostrodrumus.
was bad.
Wait
That
a
was
minute.
bad, bro.
No,
That was
wait a
bad.
minute. Nostrodrumus. I think we have a new segment that I think we're gonna have to start
Normally,
debuting.
Normally it's predictions to go wrong, but
Nostrodrumus. Holy cow. Nostrodrumus. Unbelievable. And then, the one team out of the SWAC that played that we left off was them winning convincingly 41-20 over Bethune-Cookman in the Florida Classic. The Rattlers capitalized on a pair of early turnovers by Bethune to jump out to a 13-0 lead. Actually carried a 20-7 lead into half. Actually got within a touchdown in the third quarter. I mean, just the offense, Florida A&M offense stalled a little bit. Bethune scored good. And so the third quarter, really where I believe Bethune was actually sort of inside of, where were they, Drew? They were kind of inside of their own, or inside of the FAMU maybe 20 going into the end of the third quarter. So we flipped ends. Bethune ended up getting a 2-yard touchdown on 11. So basically a pair of 11 play drives is how Bethune ended up scoring, one of 85 and one of 87. And they cut it to a 27-20 lead. And then probably the key play of the game in fourth down with FAMU facing a fourth and probably about 4 or 5 from, I'd say, about midfield. They ran a fake punt, which nobody saw. I mean, what's funny, in the press box, Drew, there was one young guy, one young man, I don't know his name, but he was sitting there like, no, why aren't they going for it? Why aren't they going for it? The momentum, blah, blah, blah. And all of us old folks, and I'm saying that because it was a lot of us seasoned people who we think we know football. So we're all saying, no. You can't go for it here. Midfield, field position. We're like, this isn't Madden. I literally, that was the last thing I said. And then what happened? We run a fake punt wide open to get into about the 20-yard line or something like that. And everybody is just like, holy cow, the stones on Coach, I believe, Chili Davis, Coach Simmons, whoever called that, the stones to be able to run a fake punt in that situation was absolutely ridiculous. And then the FAMU ended up scoring on an 18-yard pass to Kobe Gross from Jeremy Musa to go up 34-20, added another score late. Pretty much it was over at that point. And unbelievable. FAMU ended up winning that contest. And it capped off another 9-win season for Florida A&M. Won 9 games in a row following the loss to Jackson State. And really, Drew, with all of the scenarios of different playoff teams that lost on that final day, there was a strong belief walking out of that stadium that Florida A&M might have earned themselves another invitation into the playoffs as an at-large, because amongst the 8 teams that were sort of on the bubble with Florida A&M, 7 of them lost. And so nobody technically had a better record against FCS than Florida A&M. The thing that was going to be questioned was FAMU's strength of schedule, which, look, you can't do anything about that, but, it is what it is. right? And I think we've got. I know at some point is Kelvin on with us? Is he logged in?
Yeah, he's there in the background. Yes, he is.
He is.
Want to
Okay,
go to break
let's
and
see.
then bring
Let's
him
see.
in?
No, the heck with a break. Unless you want to take a break. You want to take a break? I'd rather just kind of keep rolling.
Let's take a
All
quick
right,
break.
you want to take a break. All right, let's take a
Yeah.
break, come back. Kelvin Roger is going to join us. Kelvin, of course, co-host of the O&G Strike Zone. We're going to talk about that game, the playoff scenarios, what had to happen, what needed to happen, what didn't happen, and then, of course, the disappointing news for Rattler Nation that the Rattlers were left out of the playoffs. So we're going to talk to Kelvin Roger on the other side. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. We'll be back in just a moment.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him.
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
It's like a loot machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
You see, Head & Shoulders has scalp shield technology, protects against flakes, even between washes. It's never not working.
Kind of like us. Number 15?
Never not working!
I don't like this one.
Me neither.
Let's get out of here.
Head & Shoulders scalp shield, never not working.
Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1.
Mobile banking from Truist actually works for you. It gives you simple, smart, personalized insights to keep you one step ahead. Because we think that's the kind of control you deserve over your money. When you start with care, you get a different kind of bank. Truist. Download the mobile app now.
At Tyson, we know taste is local. Some like their beef pit smoked, their chicken spiced all the way up, or their pork sweet and saucy. Local flavors, global impact. That's what feeding the world is all about.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon. So now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language. And she really loves her grandson. Like really loves.
This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN Sports Wrap, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the pregame show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time. All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. And no, it's not the ONG Strike Zone, so don't be fooled by the fact that you got 3 Rattlers on the screen. So me and AD here, but joining us,
I'm honorary,
our
man.
co-host. Oh, see now you see this. Okay, I'm not. Anyway, I'm not gonna put you out there, Drew. I know.
But for the ONG portion, I'm honorary ONG.
That's right.
Not honorary Rattler. I'm a true Rattler, but I'm honorary ONG.
Right. Kelvin Roger, of course, one of the co-hosts of the ONG Strike Zone every Wednesday nights, 8 to 10 Eastern, right here on the Black College Sports Network. So Florida A&M with the 41-20 victory over the over Bethune in the Florida Classic. Lots of optimism, Kelvin. Let's just kind of your thought on the game itself, and just with the win. What were you feeling as it relates to A&M potentially getting a second bid to the NCAA FCS playoffs?
Well, in terms of the game, I thought the team did what they needed to do. I thought it was our most complete game of the year, and kudos to Bethune because I thought they potentially could lie down, and after that we jumped on them 27-7 and went into halftime. But to their credit, man, they made some plays in the second half, came out of halftime, and they competed. Man, that's what you want in a rivalry game, and they made us work a little bit, but our guys responded as they always have done this year, and actually created more separation. And they did it without a couple of starters on defense. And the defense was pretty dominant for the most part. We had, Bethune had a couple of broken plays, but they held opponent under 300 yards again. And Isaiah Land didn't play. General Hunt didn't really play. So I thought it was a really solid performance. I thought it was enough to get us over the hump. Particularly, as you know, while we were watching the game, I was tracking what was happening in the FCS landscape. And so, typically, what happens is, when you watch the BCS and you talk about bowl games at the other Division I level, they always talk about how you finish and don't lose game late, right, and all this kind of jazz. Momentum matters, right? And you can only beat who's on your schedule, right? And so I look at our outcome, just trying to be objective, not even being a homer. Objectively, I look at who we schedule out of conference. We scheduled a South Carolina State team that was predicted to be the champion of the MEAC. We scheduled UNC team that has 8 wins in FBS right now. And we scheduled Albany State D2, but I mean they were conference champs and advanced pretty far to the semifinal rounds of the playoffs last year. So I can't even knock our out of conference scheduling. We actually scheduled pretty strong. Now I realized that we could have replaced the D2 game with a Mercer or a Tennessee State and so forth, and I predict that that's the adjustment that will be made moving forward. We'll probably lose those traditional rivalries with our D2 partners. But I thought our out of conference schedule was fine, to be honest.
Well, let me ask this: Do they? Let me ask this: Do you think that? And Drew, Steph, I don't know if you know, are they when they talk about strength of schedule? I mean, are they counting that Albany State game into our mix? I mean, because if you're not including North Carolina, which is in the hunt for an ACC title, then you shouldn't be counting the Division II game against Albany State.
I don't believe they count the Albany State game either. I'm not as versed on the FCS selection committee, obviously, because I follow D2 for D2football.com, and I had to become even more versed on the D2 side. But I think it's the same. Just like FBS does not count victories against FCS competition when they look at your record to go to an FCS. Well, let me rephrase it. They count them when it comes time to those 6 wins to go to a bowl. But when it comes to going to the FBS playoffs, they do not count those games against FCS for the playoffs. So FBS is kind of both ways with it. But as far as FCS, I just believe those are FCS on FCS games that are counted. And unfortunately, of all those teams that were in the matrix there, Kelvin, FAMU probably had one of the worst strength of schedules among those teams. And when you look at it, it was a good loss to Jackson, a quality loss to Jackson State, but it was a bad way that we lost to Jackson State. If this is the 7-6 game from last year, or that game was within one score, I think that may have been enough to get FAMU over the hump, especially with Jackson State being in the top 5 right now, and that being their only FCS loss. But let's look at some of the teams on their schedule. We just beat Bethune. We beat South Carolina State, who had a very disappointing season. You've already mentioned this. We beat a Valley, who's Valley. So we beat some other things. We beat a Southern, who may wind up winning the SWAC West, but the fact that they may win the SWAC West is too late to help out the FAMU resume, because that would occur after the selections. You beat an Alabama A&M, who had a very disappointing season. You beat your quality win, if you're FAMU, is Alabama State. Honestly, can you give me a better quality victory than Alabama State?
I would think Southern is the quality win.
I don't think so, because when you look at that Southern schedule, the fact that they play an NAIA and Virginia Lynchburg, I don't know if you can really consider Southern the victory over Southern a quality win because of Southern.
I don't think we were predicted. I don't think we were predicted to beat Southern by the analytics. If I recall,
it's just the fact that Southern's schedule was so weak. I would say that Alabama State was more of a quality victory for Florida A&M than Southern, the eye test amongst the HBCUs. But if you want to leave that to the nerds, Alabama State is the quality victory that FAMU had, and Alabama State was a lower third team at best as far as FCS is concerned.
So what I would say to that, Drew, is one, there are teams who are 7-4 that have no quality wins either. There were some teams that got in,
but they're not HBCUs, and we always get looked at with that side eye.
They lost to some people close, but they didn't beat anybody. And the other point I would make also is that we were talking about the Division II and what counts and what doesn't count and so forth. They consider FBS wins when you beat a FBS team. They don't consider it when you lose to a FBS team. They don't supposed to consider D2, but when they talk about a strength of schedule, they'll mention D2. And as a matter of fact, when the who was it, the chairman of the committee was talking about Jay questioning them about a 9-2 FAMU and them not getting in, and the one of the things he mentioned, the first thing he mentioned was that they had a D2 loss. In terms of scheduling in our conference,
a D2 loss.
I mean, a D2. We had a D2 game.
Okay,
he mentioned that. All right. So whether we had a D2 game or not, I don't think really come to play, because some teams, other teams have had D2 wins and got in too. The bottom line, they look at FCS wins, right? So some of those teams who got in, at maximum got 7 FCS wins. Some of them got 6 FCS wins, right? And we have
FAMU has
8. Right.
Yes.
So I mean, there's a lot of things that go into the goulash, so to speak, and you can't pick and choose. At the end of the day, this is what I see, and this is as a analyst. This is not as a FAMU fan. What makes the NCAA March Madness so popular is because everybody has a shot at it, and they're consistent in how they how teams how they apply who gets in, and they give the little guy a chance, so to speak. FCS football honestly is not entertaining enough. It's not followed enough to exclude HBCUs. If they want to grow the FCS playoffs, then they need to open their eyes, man. Because honestly, most of those teams aren't entertaining. And let's face it, North Dakota State, Georgia Southern, there's dynasty in the FCS championships, right? Montana, the same schools win over and over, right? So, I mean, when you tell me that because you're in a conference with all those schools that you're a better team, I don't buy that. New Hampshire got in. New Hampshire got in. They beat a 2-8 Maine team, 42-41 yesterday. Of course, you know they lost at home, got blown out by North Carolina Central too early in the season.
Yep.
So for me, my issue is fam, you can't do anything about their strength of schedule in terms of who they got. Our conference is our conference. We played who was in our conference,
and
we beat.
And that's part of the problem.
We've been on 9-game streak. I don't think you can reward teams for losing. Like we talked about Delaware. Delaware lost 3 out of the last 4 games. They got 7 wins in their end. You can't reward teams for losing and then talking about, on the other hand, HBCUs, but your strength of schedule, man. They got to look at that formula, man. I cannot let them off the hook with that. And if they
you bring up a
be relevant and they want an audience, then they're gonna have to broaden how they and be more consistent in how they apply that.
Go ahead, Drew, and then I'll follow up with my point. Go ahead.
I think part of it kind of equates back to what you said, Kelvin, talking about the conferences. And it's time to have a reality talk about this. And yes, I'm a FAMU supporter, HBCU supporter, but for the sake of argument and the sake to bring up the other side of the coin, until this year, the SWAC record outside of HBCUs was 0-and forever. The SWAC had not beaten another FCS. I'm saying, you talk about the conference rating.
And it doesn't have anything to do with FAMU
this year. But it's a reflection of the conference that Florida A&M plays in, because the SWAC was 0-and pretty much this millennium going outside of HBCU football to beat anyone. Now, Kelvin, I'm on your side. I am on your side, but I'm trying to bring the other view that was possibly considered in the room so that our viewers understand that, there are other dynamics. That's why the SWAC was probably the only conference that was rated worse than the SWAC was probably the BAC. Just trying to be honest. I haven't looked at the conference ratings, but come on now, those who flip a coin every year, it seems like, in whatever sport it is, football, basketball, baseball, softball, volleyball, as the lowest rated conference in the NCAA. If they're not the bottom 2, they are 2 of the bottom 3 every year, every sport, and it's time that something occurs. I'm gonna let Brian get his point in. Back to a conversation that we had on Dr. Cavil's Inside HBCU Sports Lab this morning.
I think there is a strong bias here, and you're showcasing it and you're pointing it out without actually saying it. And it's the fact that, yes, if the committee is holding the previous record of the conference over FAMU's head, and worse, the fact that, as you pointed out, Kelvin, you're penalizing FAMU for playing a Division II team when others have questionable losses during the course of the similar 9 straight games that FAMU has won. 8 of the 9 were against FCS opponents. The bias that we're talking about is perception. And then I've even heard people say that the loss last year is nothing. In the same respect that the loss last year, and that should not be considered, because if that's the case, then I'm going to even go over, since you brought up basketball, and we're talking about, for example, a different sport, different committee. But if that's the case, a team like Gonzaga in basketball should probably never get a 1 seed in the West, even though they come out of a weak conference. You know what I'm saying? So we can't have a bias, or we shouldn't accept. Let me rephrase the way I say this now. we should not accept the bias that seems to exist, and also factor in the fact that, hey, because we're not part of your playoff system, by the fact that we pulled our team, and A, we have a SWAC championship game, B, we play in a bowl game, which generates more money than probably, with the exception of maybe whoever goes 4 games deep into the playoffs, that bowl game generates more money for that school than most of the teams in the playoffs. There might be some jealousy. There might be some less than honorable intentions put on out there by other school presidents within the FCS. I mean, and that's the truth. How many? I mean, so
Brian, I just want to make one more comment about something Drew brought up in terms of big losses. Montana State steamrolled Montana. It was not a competitive game. And there were several other teams who got in that got steamrolled, lost big to teams in their conference. I'm just saying, man. Jackson State is number 5. Montana State is what, 2? I mean, so and that was early in the season. We had some issues, compliance issues. There was other factors along with ours. I'm just saying, treat us like you treat everybody else. I don't buy into the bias, which is what he's talking about. What I'm saying, if this is the standard for Delaware, then it's got to be the standard for FAMU. Don't penalize me because of my conference and what they did last year, or that they don't have auto bid. Man, this year we won 9 games in a row. We got the second longest home winning streak in the country, and that should matter, right? Momentum should matter. I don't see how you let a team that got 2 more losses than you, that lost 3 of the last 4 games, and I'm talking Delaware, how you put them in. I don't even see how CAA honestly got 5 teams. I see 3.
That's the
it's like the SEC. It's like the SEC. It's like the SEC. It's like ACC in basketball.
Yeah, because regional reasons you don't have head to head. So I'm just saying. I just think had all those teams been 8-3, had half of those teams won and got in, I would be less critical. But at 7-4 and losing and getting steamrolled at that, then you can't sell me the plantation. I want off the plantation.
Hey, you made a good point here, Kelvin, and I think talk about the transparency. We know in the basketball committee, we understand what the criteria is. And Drew, we talked about this many times. We understand all the factors that go into why SWAC teams, for example, end up as the 16 seeds. And it's very clearly defined what has to happen, what your team and conference has to do. There is very little debate in the basketball NCAA tournament. Now, again, football is a ridiculous another animal. I mean, you're going to have debates in the FBS, and obviously you have debates in the FCS. But as what you said, Kelvin, there is no clear defined criteria. Tell us what we need to do to get in. I see people saying that we need to schedule other teams. If that mattered, if the NCAA came out and said, don't schedule Division II teams, we want you to schedule other region teams, then we would. But they don't tell you that is a criteria to help you get in.
Here's the problem, Brian. Because the SWAC and the BAC do not get an automatic bid. The SWAC and the BAC do not have a presence at the table, meaning there is no one in that room advocating for the SWAC, for the BAC, and finding out the ins and the outs of the formula, aka Dr. Charles McClellan on the basketball committee, who has arisen to the chair of the basketball committee. Look at what the SWAC has done with basketball just this year. Dr. McClellan realized that they need to do some other things with basketball, go out and play some other competition, play some Power 5, and damn, on the men and women's side, you're starting to see the benefits of that knowledge that Dr. McClellan has picked up over his years on the committee, and now that he's the chair, he has positioned the SWAC to get some serious look. Right now, there is no way in hell in basketball that you could tell me that the SWAC will be the 31st or 32nd, how many ever basketball conferences we have, will be the bottom conference this year. The SWAC right now should not be in the bottom 2 or 3 conferences right now, just with these Power 5 victories that they picked up, in addition to the mid-major victories that they've picked up. But Brian, this leads to an interesting discussion. I want to throw it out there to you two guys. Also want to throw it out there to the listeners and get their opinion on this. We talked about this morning on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. And Dr. Cavill brought up a very interesting question. Would there be room, and we'll use this year as the example, for a second bowl game? This year, that bowl game could possibly feature a FAMU and A&T playing each other. You still got the Celebration Bowl. Don't touch the Celebration Bowl. Then as we got into the discussion, and I believe it may have been either Joshua Sims or BJ Jones brought up that maybe we ought to go to a +4 format where on the Saturday after the SWAC championship game, which this year would be December 10th, you take the top 4 teams, play it on campus sites, 1, 4, 2, 3, for the right to go to the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta the following weekend. So, and I really want to hear the people throw in on that. So you would essentially what you would have is the SWAC championship game the first weekend in December, 2 semifinal games the second Saturday in December, and then the Celebration Bowl the third weekend in December. Is there a market for something like that? Is this something we should seriously considering the treatment that we're getting from the NCAA? Because we know we can do it. We did it in the past. We did it 40, 50, 60 years ago when they didn't want us to play. And we know how we love to travel. People love the way that we spend money in communities. I'll just put it out there like that. The economic impact that we make when we go to a football game.
You want to go, Kelvin, or you want me to start?
Go ahead, you start.
And this is a hypothetical.
I see you already got that.
It's something to throw it out there.
Yeah. You know what? I like the hypothetical. I like the thinking. So let me make sure I understand what's being proposed here. Is that you're saying that after the SWAC championship, there you have a 4, so that means you're potentially looking at 4 teams.
BAC champion,
let's say this year,
SWAC champion, and then
and
2 at large, which could include A&T, Tennessee State, and Hampton.
So this year, you theoretically, I'm going to use your scenario. For this year, you probably theoretically have Jackson State, North Carolina Central, Florida A&M, and North Carolina A&T. I'm sorry, Southern folks,
you got A&T, Southern and Prairie View. Them debating on that 4 spots. You got 3 teams.
Well, yes, I got you. I'm playing the scenario out. I'm playing it out with you. Okay, so that potentially is what you have, correct? Those 4. Let's just say if it works out where Jackson State wins, then you end up with Jackson State, North Carolina Central. I'm gonna say Florida A&M and North Carolina A&T, with the last 2 schools getting the at-large bid. So what you potentially have
A&T would travel to Jackson.
So maybe Jackson, FAMU would travel to Central. Now, the sort of interesting challenge is your Celebration Bowl could potentially look like FAMU versus Jackson State, or it could look like North Carolina A&T, or it could look like North Carolina A&T, North Carolina Central. So you potentially have that as a scenario. I think they would. Now, here's the thing. Here's the question. 1, could you convince the television people of ABC to potentially move the bowl to another week back? So that way you're not – the SWAC team in the championship is not having to play 3 consecutive weeks. I'm just – because
now you're pushing Christmas if you push it back.
Well,
closer to Christmas weekend.
Drew, but I mean, in bowl games, you just said we travel. You just said the bowl games don't give a flip about your Christmas break. They're gonna play the game.
If I do anything, I push it sometime between Christmas and New Year's, and possibly maybe push the semifinal game back to the current Celebration Bowl date, and then push the championship back to the week between Christmas and New Year's. Given what you just threw out there.
Yeah, so I think television factors in, and I'm curious to how television would play and dictate what would happen in that scenario. Go ahead, Kelvin. I'll give you your time here.
So what the first thing that would have to happen, we would have to petition the NCAA to sanction
No, we don't.
more.
No, you don't.
Yeah, we do.
No, you don't, because football is not governed.
No, for postseason games at the FCS level.
Oh, yes.
For it to be approved, you have to petition the NCAA and get their blessing. I don't know what that look like. Now you open up a Pandora's box of, are you messing with the formula that the NCAA, part of the formula they use to fund.
What formula? We not in the formula. We not in the equation. So how we gonna mess up the formula?
I'm just telling you. All right, we've
had one at large in the last 10 years, and that was last year. And the way it's looking right now, that was a fluke.
Hey, don't shoot the messenger.
You was getting on me. Now it's time for me to give it back to you.
If we gonna petition the NCAA, how about petition the NCAA? I think petition them to move the start of the playoffs back a week, so that HBCUs can be a part of that and set up a scenario where the part of the first round match would be a match between the MEAC and the SWAC, maybe. What about that idea? Keep it celebrating idea also. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of scenarios within the current structure that might work. I don't know. It sounds good, but let me just be honest, man. I'm gonna get some tough love here.
Oh boy,
it ain't too many HBCU games that people want to see in football in December. I mean, we done seen a lot of them during the year. The officiating frustrates the hell out you. The quality of play is not the best. So I don't know. I don't want to create an entertainment and not a true competition type deal, right? I like the thought process. I'm not saying no to it. I'm open to it. But that would really have to be vetted, man, and see how it impacts some of the other sports. And then I think the players and coaches ultimately, at least at FAMU, I don't speak FAMU. I know some schools don't give a flip. But at FAMU, I know a lot of the coaches, the players, playing for championships is pretty important. So if there's a way to monetize that and make an HBCU championship and get the blessing and so forth, that's a consideration. I don't want to poo-poo the idea, but it's a lot of hurdles to go through that, and then the money got to be right, to be honest. And then you got to get the
We've
NCAA
shown that the money can be right. We've shown that the money can be right, and it's been a good investment.
I don't know.
It's been a good investment for cricket. It's been a good investment for cricket in the Celebration Bowl. So,
well, I mean,
us. There's a market
at this point, right? That's the only thing we got. If you look at the bottom half, the bottom 15 athletic budgets for FCS athletic departments, it's all HBCUs. So I don't see that. I don't see the coup that everybody else see, because I'm understanding is part of the argument and the reasons you were saying about how they look at HBCU football directly relates to the damn budgets, right? Valley is trying to run have a D1 program with like a $4 million budget, not a football budget, total budget. And so until we address that, I just don't know. All right. that would really need to be vetted a little bit more for me.
Just throw this back at Kelvin. You don't think, and this was something else that we talked about. Are we, this bowl that we're talking about, are we creating this for butts in the seat or eyes on the tube? And that's something that has to be clarified when you do that. That's something that has to be clarified because if you're trying to draw 40,000 people for a total, 3 games, 2 semifinal games, and a championship game, let's be real. Especially around Christmas time, and we know how Christmas is in a lot of our households, that's not going to happen. But if we're doing this for the eyes on the tube, well, we can potentially get, maybe 750, 800,000 on those 2 semifinal games, 1.2, 1.3 on a championship game. That's going to be a better formula for us. I could deal with 1.2 views and 25 to 30 in the seats. I could live with that. That's a good look. That's a good windfall for our HBCUs who participate, and that's a good windfall for the conferences. Versus trying to make sure we always get 40 and 50 in the stands. Times are changing. We've got to change. Sometimes we have to shift our thinking. It's not a shot at you. I'm just throwing it out there.
I agree with you. Great point. It's about the TV money. That's where the money is right now, right? Content. So and media dollars and sponsorship. So I agree with you. That game would have to be catered toward getting as many people to watch it as possible, and get as much dollars for the conferences or the HBCUs as possible. So I'm like I say, I don't. It's not a bad idea. It's just a lot logistically that has to happen. And then can the SWAC and the MEAC and all the HBCUs, can we come together and agree to work together to make this successful, man? That's
a whole other discussion for a whole other podcast.
We can't agree on our own campus, right? At FAMU. It's just a
money talks. Money talks, and maybe, who knows? Look, these big time television deals and networks have come into this space now, and look, we saw what happened with bowls. There are 41 bowls, but that only happened because major television upped the number of bowls from 20 something to 40 because they wanted programming. And half these stadiums don't sell out. Half of them don't even fill up halfway. But that doesn't matter because there's television dollars and advertising dollars. So who knows? Maybe something down the line, while we have these new media entities that are supposed to be doing things for HBCUs, they'll come up with the money that is enticing enough to college presidents to want to actually do something like this. But for now, you're going to get North Carolina A&T and Hampton moving to the Colonial. You're going to have Tennessee State staying in the OVC for whatever it is, and the MEAC and SWAC are going to do what they're going to do.
Hey, those postseason games too, Brian and Drew, you got to take in consideration expenses. We always look at the revenue side, but in December, school shut down, dorms aren't open. You got to keep kids on campus. HBCU game for TV ain't nothing without the bands, so you got to have the bands there and travel. So you got to take in consideration those for the work, man. You got to it's an expense side to this thing too.
Which goes back to that format I said, those 2 weeks, using that off week. Because if you're not worried about people getting there, then you go with the second or third week of December versus Bryan trying to get butts in the seats. Then you have to go with that format Bryan is talking about with a little bit of a gap to allow people to have time to travel.
You can't do more with less in this scenario. Put it like that, and that's how I'll end that thought. All right, Kelvin, I'll give you kind of final word or maybe the final thought, as I saw a couple people in the chats talk about scheduling. And, if FAMU were to change, would you want to see Florida A&M move away from the traditional SIAC teams that they've played, whether it's been Albany State or Fort Valley. One time it used to be Tuskegee. Would you like for them to move away from that and find another FCS opponent to be able to play?
Yeah, as long as we are a Division I program, if our goal, and this is the key, and with our administration and fan base, is to win championships in football, then we have to change that formula a little bit. Now, I don't think we have to play the FBS beatdown games. What I would like to see is for instance, for FAMU is to have your Orange Blossom Classic, maybe a Tennessee State or A&T or something like that, or home and home, with as one out of conference game, have one PWC out of conference game, Mercer, Stetson, some regional school. We have a few close to us with a home and home, and then the third one could be personally, I would like to see another. If we could get Tennessee State back on the schedule, and you tell me we play Tennessee State, a PWC, and then like somebody in the Orange Blossom Classic, man, that would be awesome for me. Atlanta Classic, type deal maybe, and a Miami Classic, and then our 5 home games. I believe that's good enough. You got out of conference, you playing another Division I school, but you still playing your HBCUs, and just take out the North Carolina, the Oklahoma games, man, and play games that you can compete, teams you can compete with, and have a chance to win. That's the option I would like to see FAMU take.
All right, well said. Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern to 10. That's where you can find Kelvin, myself, Kofi Hemingway, ONG Strike Zone. That's where we'll talk. We talk all things FAMU athletics, sports, and culture. Pre-Thanksgiving, I'm sure we'll find some time away from the pre-cooking and all the other stuff to kind of recap what happened, and then also celebrate a volleyball championship, which yes. Shout out to Florida A&M volleyball team on SWAC again, second year in a row. So congrats to the Lady Rattlers on that. And
shout out to Tennessee State for winning the OVC also.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to Tennessee State on winning the OVC. So, all right. Well, hey, Kelvin, thanks for making some time tonight. We'll talk offline during the next couple of days as we try to put together that show, and then we'll go from there, man. But thanks for your time tonight, and we'll holler.
All right. Thank you, guys, man. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
All right. Again, Kelvin Rozier, ONG Strike Zone, Wednesday nights. Good discussions going on in the chat room. I know a lot of you folks, some of you folks out there, just beat Jackson State. Well, look, I mean, that ideally that
there are 10 other teams who
that would have been nice.
Thing.
So I mean, look, exactly. I mean, that's we would have liked to have beaten Jackson State. So it is what it is. I think when that happens, you have to factor in all that went into that beginning of the season. And, look, we're talking about Florida A&M. How about it's just disappointing for North Carolina A&T fans, because the Aggies in a de facto championship game against Gardner-Webb did everything they needed to do. 7-4. I think they were 7-3 or 7-4 going into that game. They 4-0.
7-3. They finished 7-4.
Okay, so 7-3 going into that game. Could have won the large bid, gone into the playoffs. Instead, they end up losing to at that time, a 5-5 Gardner-Webb team. Now, say what you will, Gardner-Webb lost to some, again, we talk about ranked teams. They lost to some quality opponents. Whatever. I mean, though I put it like this, those schools don't want to schedule FAMU, and they don't want to schedule now, a lot of SWAC. Now, maybe they'll schedule because they know they'll get a large attendance because the schools will bring their band. Maybe they'll bring their band, but who's to say? if FAMU were to play, give me an FBS in the South region. Give me an FCS in the South region, Drew. Who's out there? Somebody, Mercer?
Mercer, go back to Southeast Louisiana. So they're back in it.
South, okay. So I mean, Southeast Louisiana. Let's say you schedule them. Your Southeast Louisiana is hoping
they won't even play Southern, who's in their own backyard.
Thank you. That's what I was just about to say. So we might need to step back from them. I was going to go up the road to say Mercer, which is located in Macon, right?
Macon, correct.
They know that, hell, if we schedule Florida A&M, we might have more Florida A&M people at this game than our own fans. Kennesaw will definitely have more Florida A&M. You know what I'm saying? Because what you're doing is you're going to bring in a large base. So now, maybe those schools, maybe if they really cared and they wanted to, they would invite us to a neutral site. I don't know. I mean, the problem with
non-HBCU FCSs really play at neutral sites, though, Brian? Besides,
I don't think they do. I don't know.
That's the thing. I've really never seen neutral site games.
See, here's the interesting dynamic of all of this, Drew. I want to be careful I don't want to be careful, but I want to say this correctly or say this the way that makes sense. We are trying to exist in their structure, their world. We just saw on the Division II level.
Can I add a caveat to that before you move on?
Quickly. Go ahead. Yeah. What are you going to add?
While still trying to maintain our culture. Now you can move on.
I mean, I think our culture is strong enough I feel like we can take our culture everywhere, anywhere. Yeah. I think perfectly. I think North Carolina A&T, Hampton can take their culture into and be successful if the football is good. Now, granted,
that's a big if.
It has to. Well, I mean, hey, look, Hampton was not a bad team this year, and I think Hampton will be a little more competitive. I think A&T will be competitive. I will not be surprised to see Hampton and A&T be in the upper. Let's see, there's 12 in that, the 13. They will be in the top 7 of that CAA next year. I will not be surprised to see either of them in the top 7. Okay. Because I think they have strong football playing teams, good coaching, athletic players. Don't forget at all these other FCS schools. Guess what? The players, most of them look like you and me, Drew. I mean, let's I think the coaching. But what we have though is we have a case of just like we had a school or a conference in Division II, Drew, that chose to send a letter, and I don't know if they sent it to the NCAA or they just kind of posted it out for everyone to see, that they chose to express their disappointment when their conference champion didn't get selected into Division II's process, right? Even though, Drew, they knew what the process was. See, that's the one thing I will say about Division II. Division II, you and Chris and all the other people who covered D2, you guys knew what the process. Hell, the one guy, he's been calling it, what's the website where he's been calling it all, he's been predicting who was going to be top region teams. Like, yeah.
Inkblot.
He's not on Inkblot. He's not on the committee, but he knows the formula. He knows what they look at. He knows the process, right? So everybody knew. But do you think that stopped the SAC, who chose to publicly express their disappointment in writing and put it out on the net and then say, even though we know what the process is, we hope to begin the discussion to possibly change the process that will be more inclusive or considering of a champion. It's something to that effect. I don't know if you got the whole. Do you have that thing pulled up?
No, I don't, but I didn't read it though.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, well, so does the SWAC commissioner, Dr. Charles McClellan, would he put out a statement expressing his disappointment in the fact that Florida A&M did everything they were asked to do and still didn't get an invitation compared to other teams? I doubt it. I doubt it because, that's not his. Well, I would doubt it from the simple point that him being part of the NCAA basketball committee, wouldn't be advantageous. But why not Florida A&M's interim athletic director? Why not Dr. Larry Robinson, who's president of Florida A&M?
Why not Fort Valley State?
But and turn back to D2. So what I'm just saying is what I'm showing you is what they do when they are disappointed. What do we do when we've been screwed over? And we can talk about it, but if no one's going to call it out, as Kelvin said offline, closed mouths don't get fed. But the playoffs are not really our thing, though, Drew. This is the point. It's the Celebration Bowl. See, everything's geared towards the Celebration Bowl. MEAC champion, SWAC champion, Celebration Bowl. Go win. Go to the Celebration Bowl. Get a big payday. Celebrate Black college football at the Celebration Bowl. The playoffs. Yeah, if we get an opportunity, but only so many schools will get an opportunity because, some schools are actually playing games like Southern and Grambling are playing next week. Alabama State's playing next week. Everybody's not going to get an opportunity to participate in the playoffs. You have to have a perfect scenario. Yeah, this is the letter that the SAC. What's the? Hold on, let me move the thing off my screen. The South Atlantic Conference shares in the disappointment and frustration of our Newberry College family regarding them not being selected to participate in this year's NCAA Division II playoffs. Now, Drew, explain that. Newberry won the conference, correct?
They won the conference championship game.
Right. But because of their rating, 2 other schools from the conference got the invite, correct?
Correct. And I don't think that this letter was a shot at those 2 teams, Brian.
No,
this
it wasn't.
Letter is a direct shot at Fayetteville State.
Preach, talk.
Well,
Fayetteville.
Well, when you look at the 2 resumes of these 2 teams, Fayetteville State and Newberry had similar resumes. Fayetteville State lost to 2 teams. Both of those 2 teams were ranked. Those 2 teams being Virginia Union and Wingate, who happened to play each other.
Right.
Newberry lost to Limestone and Wingate. And both teams had a conference championship. And Newberry beat a higher rated team in their conference championship game than Fayetteville State did. Shawan was down around 15-16 at the time of the championship game. And I believe Mars Hill, who they defeated, may have been like 8, 9. Mars Hill was right around the top 10. So this is what that was at. This was a shot at Fayetteville State. And let's keep something in mind. Fayetteville State beat a team in the conference championship game for the second time this season, as they defeated Shawan earlier this season by 3 points and defeated Shawan again in the championship game by 3 points. So this is who that letter was really talking about more than the other 2 conference brethren. Now, from where I sit at, I think Fort Valley has just as big of a argument as
while we're writing letters. Go ahead, SIC. We'll write you a letter.
Yeah.
While we're writing letters,
And the reason why I'm saying that Fort Valley lost to the number 1 team in the region. while Newberry lost to the number 4 and the 5 team in the region. Now, Fort Valley also beat at that time, the number 8 team in the region, being Tuskegee.
Albany.
They also beat a team who was in the top 10 until they beat them, that being Albany State also. So Fort Valley had more top 10 victories than Newberry did. Now, did Fort Valley have a bad loss? Yes, they did. They lost to Savannah State, who, by the way, finished 500, which in the eyes of the committee is something that they look at. So Fort Valley, despite the loss to Savannah State, did not lose to a sub 500 team. So Mr. Newberry, the president of Newberry and the president of the SAC, I contend Fort Valley had just as good of an argument, if not better, than you did. But I guess maybe we've learned to deal with it so that this has been happening to us for years. It happened to Savannah State last year. It happened to Virginia State in 2017.
Bring that back up, because that second paragraph just irks the F out of me. Because at one point they show you their open hand and say, after reviewing the situation and discussing it with multiple individuals at the NCAA involved in the process, the SAC is confident the selection procedures were followed appropriately as they are currently written. That's my open hand. Then in the very next sentence, with that said, both the SAC and Newberry have begun working with the NCAA to consider adjusting the current process so that a similar situation does not occur in the future. Slap in the face.
Brian,
I mean,
not to get political,
Drew.
Not to get political, but we see it in society right now. We see the demographics are shifting, and people are trying to change the rules of how we conduct elections by changing the process. Yeah. And I'm not trying to turn this into a political show. Not trying to turn this into MSNBC, but it's the same. It's the same thing we're seeing in society,
leading into sports
in general.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. We don't like the results, so let's change it.
The process.
We don't like the results that is written. We don't like the results that have been in place for the last, several years. We don't like the results that we've feasted on. Oh, all of a sudden an anomaly happened. 3 HBCUs, 2 from one particular conference got in. We got to do something about it. We change the process. Get the F out of here.
Let's go to break on that, Brian.
Let's go to break, man. Got me ticked off up in here. But yeah, man, we got to talk some basketball when we come back. Let's talk some basketball. Get away from football for a moment. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. We'll be back in just a moment.
Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
It's like a loop machine. Going around town, trying to get down.
Obviously, we know that they won all those games. Some of those teams are going to make up that difference. That difference.
We understand. We believe that.
So,
but I have.
We know the
when we talk about Southern coming out, I agree with it, and I looked at the matrix too. because I think it's important that you're not just talking about a team winning, what you think your record is, but really looking at that schedule. Yeah. I mean, it's early, but we can look at the schedule. The 2 losses I have for Southern are road games, having to go to FAMU, having to go to Jackson. Those are 2 losses. But I think they're going to go 5-0 in the division, right? They got Alcorn at home.
It's going to be the crossovers.
Yep. They got Texas Southern. It's in Arlington, right? And so they have a favorable schedule in terms of at least in divisional play, but it's tough. Thing that I see in the East that is interesting to me is I think Jackson State did Alabama A&M a favor when that game was moved to Mobile. I see that being a loss. I see them winning in O&G, but I see FAMU defeating Alabama A&M at home, right? And so those are some of the things that I think you consider also. It's not just the matchup, but where is the actual game played? And when you have the schedule where everybody doesn't play everybody, who do you have on your schedule? How deep is that schedule? And then where do you play those games? And at what time of the year do you play those games?
Hey, is there a team anybody have on the surprise board that's going to shock everybody?
Hold on,
East and West?
hold on, Drew. Hold on.
Okay.
Before you jump that, go ahead.
Winning, what you think your record is, but really looking at that schedule. Yeah. I mean, it's early.
That day, SWAC Media Day, and some of our predictions and some of our. I think Doc was on point with Southern's 2 losses, although they did have a loss to Texas Southern in there as well. A pretty bad loss to Texas Southern. Did the point you made was that in that clip? I don't think your point you were looking for was in that clip.
Here it goes, Brian.
All right, let's go to your clip. I think it's on
Dooley, so we know what he brings. Yeah. Also, we remember what kind of man he was as far as the program, and Coach Richardson is still hanging around or whatever from a help standpoint. Now, where the location is going to be at, that's definitely a toss-up.
Again,
I say it's going back to Jackson.
A case of soda, a case of
7-1 and 6-2. So that's why it's going to Jackson.
I want a
Y'all
case
end the
of
season
the
at 6-2.
finest ginger ale from all of you after when FAMU wins the East.
I need something stronger than the ginger ale, bro.
Well, I have them at 7-1. I have a 3-way tie in the East. The problem is the tiebreaker is going to go who's top in the poll. And because Jackson State starts higher in the poll, they're going to end up finishing higher in the poll. So take out those little nuggets, those little things that you need to consider when you're talking about a season and those tiebreakers in a lot of ways.
Can I make a bold prediction out here? I want to throw it out here to everybody.
Bold predictions, Drew, huh? Okay, more bold predictions.
I think there's so much parity in the SWAC this year. 5-3 on both sides is going to do it because and let me explain to you why.
You have a matrix to back that up. I'm just saying.
He got some data analytics.
Also, remember who you're next to, so you need your data analytics to go on.
But let me
data points.
Let me explain it. Data point over here.
Data points for that one.
But let me break this down for you. Jackson State set the standard last year in the SWAC, and we've seen the response each and every team in the SWAC has done. They're going to close that gap. Now, number one, Jackson State did not blow everybody out in the SWAC. There were many games. There were at least 3 games that they could have very easily have lost last.
There it is, Brian.
Okay, but you put me out there on Front Street with my lone wolf call. See, again, you ain't looking out for me. You trying to look out for you, but instead, I'm the one who gets run over. I had completely forgotten my horrible pick. I mean, it was what it was, but I was the lone wolf, and you just kindly threw that out there. I hope people don't come looking for paychecks. Damn, Drew. I mean, I had come. Man, thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah, a lot of people. Good Lord, man. I'm the
That
one
was the
that's
first
got
time that I called it. I broke it down a little bit later on in some other shows where I actually said that in the West it was going to be a 5-3, but on the East side kind of turned out pretty much how everybody thought it was.
I wonder how many people I might owe for that. I just lose all kinds of,
There was
credibility
8 other people on
right
that
off the
panel.
bat. Yeah, people have forgotten my bold prediction, honestly, until you just reminded everybody. So I appreciate you, Drew. Congratulations on your prediction, and thanks for reminding me of mine. Wayne Morgan said it's funny how wrong everyone is. Yeah, that's the but that's the fun thing about doing those predictions at the beginning of the year. But a lot of people on that panel did have Jackson State. I was the only one who did not. And a lot of people on that panel picked
Southern.
Southern.
Yeah. It was Southern or Prairie View.
Yeah, I was on I and maybe 2 other people picked Prairie View. Most everybody else picked Southern. So at the end of the day, what's really kind of interesting, if Southern beats Grambling, I mean, a lot of people are going to cash some tickets, theoretically, cashing tickets. So. Yeah, and again, congratulations, Jackson State, on going unbeaten. Somebody in there said they would lose 3 games. Is that what I heard in that clip? That Jackson State would lose 3 games? Or was it just that Jackson State would play close games?
No, I said they had played 3 games that were close the previous season.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's talk about the past when I say past week, let's say the past 7 or 8 days of SWAC men's basketball, because I contend, Drew, this may be the best week, or and theoretically week 7 to 10 days. This might be the best stretch of basketball for SWAC men's basketball since I don't know when, but just started back on November 7th, and of course, the SWAC men were involved in the SWAC Pac-12 challenge. I forgot what the official name is. I'm sure it's out there somewhere, and somebody will correct me. But what that was is 6 Pac-12, I almost said Pac-10, 6 Pac-12 schools, 6 SWAC schools would play. 3 games would be at SWAC locations. 3 would be at Pac-12 locations, which they normally are when these two conferences do play each other. So I think, let's see, I know Florida A&M started it off at Oregon, which was a loss. I'm trying to look and see who else went that day or right after them. I know there was a couple other schools. I'll fast forward to actually the wins. I had this in another note sheet, Drew, so if you're able to help me out with the losses or whatever. But let's go to the wins, because Grambling State, back on Friday, November 11th, got a home win against Colorado, 83-74. That same day, University of Arizona hosted Southern, and they ended up beating Southern. But of course, the big story was Grambling getting the win over Colorado. Now, even though Florida A&M traveled to Oregon State that same day, that necessarily counted as one of those games. Then on Sunday, November 12th, Alcorn beat Wichita State 66-57 in a game that Ken Palm, and anyone who follows college basketball, if you've never paid attention to Ken Palm or kenpalm.com, it is sort of the data analytics site that everyone in college basketball seems to follow. They rated this as the biggest upset in I believe in the Ken Palm era, as Alcorn State was probably rated very low. And just the fact that, Wichita State was probably a 25-something point favorite, and Alcorn beat them on the road. Then the next night, on Sunday, you had the 3-for-3. That's 3 SWAC wins over what you would say your power conferences. Texas Southern hosting Arizona State. They won 67-66. And then on Tuesday, was it Tuesday? When did that happen? Yes, Tuesday, Prairie View A&M picked up a win over Washington State 70-59. And so what you had is over the course of a 5-day period, you had 4 SWAC teams beating, what's the right way? What are we saying in basketball? I forgot. How do we say it? Power 5, power conference teams, Drew?
Power conference.
Power conference teams. Yeah, and so in that series going 3-3 with the SWAC schools, or with the Pac-12 schools. And then you had the sort of I guess the 4 or another good game on Friday, November 18th, where you had Southern traveling to Cal Berkeley and winning 74-66 over Cal. You had Valley hosting North Alabama and winning 76-68, which I think, if I read correctly, Valley hadn't won a game like that in some 5-6 years. So, needless to say, Drew, the SWAC had a pretty good week, and in a season when mostly losses occur, the SWAC is pushing themselves into a place where they might get themselves off the 16 seed line of the conference rating. What are your thoughts on the SWAC's performance over the past 10 days? SWAC basketball teams over 10 days.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Yes, I would love to see the SWAC get off of the 16 line, especially if we could get it up to 13, 12, where we may have a legitimate shot at getting a win. Could you imagine, Brian, if the SWAC went from the first 4 game on the 16 line to being able to get to the first 4 game on the 11 line, Brian? I think that should be a goal for the SWAC, because I do like the first 4 for the simple fact that you got that extra opportunity to get a win and get a revenue share by winning that first 4 game before you get into the regular portion of the tournament. And you're playing a similarly rated school if you're playing in one of those first 4 games. Or if you go in as a 14 seed playing a number 3, where chances of you getting that win are going to be slim. But to get to that 11th line, which I know is a long way to go, we won't get there this year. I would love to see us get there, but we won't get there this year. But to play another 11 and to have an opportunity to get revenue share by getting that win, I think that's a achievable and attainable goal for SWAC basketball, Brian.
Right now, I'm looking at the net conference ratings just through now. This is only 2 weeks of the season, okay? And out of 32 conferences, the SWAC right now is sitting at 30th. Ohio Valley is 29th. The MEAC is 28th. So, in theory,
30 out of how many,
32
Brian?
conferences. 30 out of 32 conferences. The non-conference record right now for the SWAC is 7-39, which is not quite. Well, no, it is. It is the lowest win percentage among all conferences. So even though the rating is not 32nd, the win percentage is. The MEAC has the second lowest win percentage, as MEAC schools are 8-27 overall. Now,
so you're saying when we win big, but those wins
unfortunately, we need more wins. Again, we understand per what's the word? Maybe per game, if I'm saying this right. The SWAC schools are probably playing more Power 5 opponents and say the Ohio Valley, the Patriot League, Horizon League, maybe even the Big Sky. All of those teams are kind of right above the MEAC and
Other
SWAC.
mid-majors. They're playing other
mid-majors. Exactly. Those mid-majors are probably playing other mid-majors. Like, for example, Florida A&M in their non-conference is playing 8 Power 5 teams. 8. I would bet, look at the average number of Power 5 teams. Okay. And I would say, what's a Power 5 team in basketball? I would say if you were in the top 10, I'm sorry, Power Conference. Conference is probably the top 9. The Atlantic 10 is 9. So the WCC, which is Gonzaga's, they're 10. So I would say if you're playing a top 10 conference team, if you looked at the number of games that a Patriot League or Horizon League team plays, it's probably on average maybe 4. But in the SWAC, it's probably more like 8. But maybe that's something I'll do. I got free time coming up this week. Is just to go look and say, how many power conference teams are SWAC basketball teams playing
compared to others, or just in general?
Or just in general, because I think you could glance at a schedule once you knew what our average is. But then what I find interesting, Drew, remember we talked about the move of Hampton, the move of North Carolina A&T, right? That conference that they're moving to, the CAA, the Colonial, they're 15th. 15th. So imagine a North Carolina A&T or a Hampton winning the Colonial. Because of their conference rating, Drew, they're probably looking at a 12 seed, maybe even 11 seed because of their conference rating.
Yes.
But you know why we're playing all those teams move.
But you know why we're playing all those power conference schools, though, Brian?
I do.
It goes back to what Kelvin said.
Yeah, I do.
It goes back to budget. And these basketball teams have to go out and support their program and raise money. And they raise that money by getting those checks from those power schools, the power conference schools.
Right. I want to just quickly glance over on the women's side because I know Jackson State's women got a pair of good wins, not only on the road at Texas Tech earlier this week. They followed it up the night with a win against Louisiana, so they're kind of 2-2 overall. Let's see. Prairie View women are 2-3 right now. They have, let's see, they haven't really beaten. They beat up on a couple of Division II or NAIA schools, so they don't quite have that cash. They haven't kind of beat the quality opponents that Jackson State women have. In the MEAC, any stories, any basketball stories in the MEAC? I know Morgan has played some close games. I know I was trying to look up earlier here in terms of MEAC basketball. I know Norfolk State's women got a good win recently. Norfolk State's men are sitting at 4-2 overall. But they've got recent losses at Baylor, UCLA. Then they won at Monmouth in I think, was that a neutral site? It was in New Jersey. I think Monmouth. Is Monmouth in New Jersey? They beat Alabama A&M. Okay, they beat Alabama A&M. So good win by them. So yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because I know we haven't talked a lot of round ball recently, but I just thought that kind of deserved a second of conversation, especially like I said, given the strong week that they had. All right, so let's see, happening right now as we talk in MEAC volleyball. You've got Coppin State and Delaware State happening right now on ESPNU. As we mentioned earlier, Tennessee State's women won the OVC volleyball tournament, so they will go to the NCAA. Florida A&M's women won the Lady Rattlers won the SWAC volleyball tournament. They will go to the NCAA tournament. And
that's 2 in a
so
row.
congratulations to 2 in a row. Yeah, that's congratulations to the Tigers. Congratulations to the Rattlers. And then Coppin State or Delaware State, somebody will get a chance to walk out of there with a victory sometime late tonight. Quick conversation that one of the topics that we had, the end of the football season brings up coaching changes, for lack of a better word. And we have some coaches that what is it you called it? You called it moving season?
Moving season.
Because
coaches will be asked to move out, and new coaches will soon move in. And that's from coordinators to position coaches to head coaches. And, somewhere along the line, usually in the springtime, you start seeing athletic directors start being moved around also. So it's a lot of changes that start happening this time of the year.
Yeah. So let's go. Obviously, as we were kind of going back and thinking about what we already know and who's already kind of stepped down. We didn't have as many season replacements as we had last year. Doc Gamble was replaced mid-season or really going into late October at UAPB. And then in sort of I would call it a bit surprising, Rich Freeman resigned at Morehouse, I believe after 17 seasons, I think.
16 or 17.
Yeah, 16 or 17. He stepped down at Morehouse, and they had a very tough season, getting their only win. And it's sort of, I'm good for him, good for Morehouse. They did not end the season winless because that was staring them in the face that last game against Clark. And so they got the win. Coach Freeman, if that was his last game as a head coach, it definitely was his last game as a head coach at Morehouse. He ended it with a win. So congratulations to Coach on a great career at Morehouse. I don't know if we see Coach Freeman elsewhere. Did you hear from anybody, Drew? I kind of told you to kind of put that out there to see,
I didn't have a chance to put it. I didn't have a
Okay.
chance to put that out there to see
Okay.
of our colleagues and see if anybody had any inside information.
Yeah. Okay, so hot seat. Now, this is always sometimes controversial, but we'll put it out there because we've heard their name mentioned. I don't think I'm not saying that they're on the hot seat. I don't think Drew is. These are names that have been talked about. When
Right, and some of these
hey,
people,
so-and-so.
Some of these people that are going to be on this list were people that were considered on the hot seat coming into this season and probably have played themselves into staying for another year also. So we included some of those names on this list also.
And again, a lot of this, we don't have, as we do this, I don't have contracts. I don't know whose contract is up, who's still there. But let's go through the list. Possible hot seats in Division I football. As seasons have come to an end, some possible hot seats. Coach Terry Sims at Bethune-Cookman. Coach Sims, and talking to Jerry Bell of HailWildcats.com this past Wednesday, Coach Sims, in the past 26 games 5-21. But you tell me a coach in Division I football, maybe outside of Vincent Dancy, who has had to deal with everything that Coach Sims has had to deal with. You've had
go back to
presidents.
last year.
You've
Wasn't able
had
to
presidents
practice.
leave, ADs leave. You've had COVID. You've had hurricanes. You haven't been able to practice. You haven't been in your facility. I mean, this isn't just a one-year thing. This has been over the past 2-3 years that this has gone on. That 5-21 record over the past 26 games. I mean, here's a man who went into the Florida Classic. Here, put this in perspective. Going into the Florida Classic, his record was 38-38 overall. 8th season at Bethune-Cookman. Do the math. 5-21 over the last 26. What he did at the beginning when things were stable. When things were stable, right?
He can coach.
and so, yeah. So I don't know. It's one of those tough spots to be in. You know, I don't know contract terms or where Coach Sims is at. I know I think one of the things that came out, Coach Sims is an administrator. I like Coach Sims. I would hope that Bethune would give him opportunity to be a part of where Bethune is and helping them get back on the right track. But also you got to be able to give him the right stuff. You know, you need to be able to, and all of this is a lot of it's not in his control. I'm doing a lot of talking. Go ahead, Drew. Jump in there.
Here's the thing. Coach Reggie Theus in his second season as athletic director, first full season as athletic director, as he took the job kind of late on in the process of last year.
Mm-hmm.
He's had a year and a half to evaluate Coach Sims. Now, obviously, Coach Theus has not had to deal directly with those issues as far as his team is concerned, because those different issues happen outside of the basketball season, as he does as the basketball coach. But from an administrative point, he has had to deal with Coach Sims with these issues. So how does that play out? Does Coach Theus know that maybe he has not given Coach Sims a fair hand and a fair shot at this and gives him another season? Or does Coach Theus do like most athletics directors do and decide to bring in their own guy? That is the question surrounding Coach Sims right now.
Yeah. Some other names, you got Rod, some interesting names here. Rod Milstead at Delaware State. He is Delaware State. He is a Hall of Famer, an alum. What Delaware State finished this year? 5-6?
Yes, 5-6, 3-2 in conference.
Winning record in conference with a young team, if I'm not mistaken. So
first road victory in like 14 seasons or something along those lines. First road conference victory in 14 seasons. First time they opened the conference 1-0 in a ridiculous amount of time. I can't remember the years, but I know it's double-digit years. And let's be honest, coming into this season, it had been a little bit lackluster for Rod Milstead. Now, I think he did enough this year to buy himself some more time, but coming into the season, he was definitely one that you had to consider, had to have a good year.
Yeah. Vincent Dancy is a name that, talk about every time we mention Valley, you talk about doing more with less. They finished the season on a positive note. And I think they did this the second year. I think they may have finished the season on a positive note or with some positive
2 years in a row.
Yeah, and so now can Valley start the season on a positive note? Can they get off to a good start? So I don't know. I don't know if you go away from Dancy Valley. Seems to be a lot of it seems to be like if that Dancy go, he'd probably have a. It seems like the thought is that he'd have a job the next day.
At least as a
That's kind of the
coordinator
vibe I
somewhere.
get somewhere. Yeah. Dawson Odoms, Norfolk State, finished his second year. Disappointing. If you start with the last, and you know what, I want to pull it up and look here, Drew. But if you take the last, Norfolk State had a chance of winning the MEAC last year, did they not?
With,
And then they
with two
kind of
games,
they
with
blew.
2 games to go last year, they controlled their own destiny last year with 2 games to go.
Right. Okay. So if you go, let's see, this year they finished 2-9. They did finish the season on a winning note with a 42-38 win at South Carolina State. They got a road win at Morgan. So 2 road wins, no wins at home. So if you took into consideration what Norfolk State did at the end of last year, and I'm just going to pull it up real quick here. Look at what they did in finishing in the first year of Coach Odoms. Their last 3 games they lost. So in the last 14 games, 2-12. 2-12. Started off hot, 6-2, 2-12. So I don't think he's on the hot seat now, Drew.
But consider the allegations that came out over the summer. Not going to go back over those
Yes.
again. You can go back and Google those and
Yes.
rehash those along with that 2-12. Brian, you have to at least say a match is lit.
Yeah. Next year's this is a big offseason for Norfolk State. Big offseason for Coach Odoms. Buddy Pugh. I'm surprised that this name is on the hot seat list. I don't think Buddy Pugh goes anywhere unless Buddy Pugh wants to go somewhere. If he
And
wants
that's
to hang it
why I
up at
put him
South
on
Carolina
this
State,
list. That's why he's
I
on the
would
list
not
because
have.
he
I
may
would
want
never.
to go somewhere.
I would
He
put
may
Buddy
want to
Pugh
go ahead
on
and go
this
to the
hot
house.
seat list. Yeah, I would. Yeah, and yeah, obviously contracts. I see Doc in the chat room. Yeah, we don't. Unfortunately, we don't have contracts.
And I know Buddy
As we
just signed a
stated
new
at the
contract.
beginning of this, he did. Okay, well, hey, good for him. But then I don't know. You wanted to put him on the list. I objected.
But
You're
that's
doing the
more. I think that's more of the fact. I think that's more of the fact that maybe, especially after a disappointing season this year, Buddy Pugh may decide to retire. Remember, before he broke the all-time win record at South Carolina State, he was contemplating retirement then. I believe that was pre-pandemic. So you're 3 years later, maybe those thoughts are creeping back into his mind. That's the only reason Buddy Pugh is on this list. It's not due to job performance. It's not due to people trying to force him out in South Carolina, else they would not have given him the contract extension. But the fact that he may be, possibly considering hanging it up just because it's time. People know when it's time. He may have the thought in his mind.
Clarence McKinney. Going into the season, possible hot seat.
Yes.
Possible
coming
hot
out of the
seat.
season.
Yeah,
I think he's safe.
I think, I don't know if he was in the last year of his contract, but I would have him on. Now, I would also say I would love to see them be able to continue to develop Andrew Body and his quarterbacking. I think I want to see some real growth. I don't know if I saw a lot of growth in the quarterbacking, in the job of quarterbacking in terms of being a better passer, things of that nature. But Andrew Body is the real deal. And so I think if you bring McKinney back, he's finally got a group that he has sort of raised. He's raised these guys, and they're hungry, man. I mean, I'm sure that loss was disappointing. and it's just, but that was a young team that was probably in a position they didn't know how to recover from, and so that will be sort of that fuel for the future. And so if hopefully McKinney is not on the end of a contract, and I think Texas Southern ought to stick with him. There is something to stability, Drew. There's something
There
to
is.
stability. There is. All right, let's Division II level. And is this Division II and or just non-D1s in general?
Non-Division ones.
Non-Division one. Okay, a couple of interims. Correct. That's what the asterisks are for.
Yes, and that's why they're listed on here, because they are interims. They do not have the job on a permanent basis, so you have to list them as the athletic director and or administration, for whatever reasons, may decide to go a different direction. Now, does Kyle Jackson definitely deserve an opportunity to know that their program is his own? Yes, he does. But because he does not have the title, you have to put him here, because there's a chance that he may not be at Bowie next year. Same thing with Paul Hamilton at Kentucky State. And Paul Hamilton took the job as late as you possibly could get. Matter of fact, going into SIAC Media Day, no one even knew he was the head coach going into SIAC Media Day until you got to SIAC Media Day.
Right. Got a pair of coaches at the Lincoln schools. Jermaine Gales at Lincoln, Missouri. Now they are in the
MIAA
conference. MIAA, one of the toughest Division II conferences. They play an 11-game schedule, all conference teams, I believe, and it is brutal. It is brutal out there in the Midwest for Lincoln, and it has been for the last
six
few
top 25
seasons.
teams. They've got about top 25 teams in their conference.
Right. I don't know how I didn't get a chance to look it up and see. When's the last time Lincoln had a winning season? Lincoln, Missouri, we're talking about. But he and Josh Dean over at Lincoln, PA, are probably dealing with similar things, where you got to find a way to get wins, and your program hasn't won a lot of games over maybe the last 5 to 10 years, right? Adrian Jones of Shaw. Now, why do we put him on there, Shaw?
I believe Jones has been at Shaw since like 15 or 16. And, Shaw has not been able to get over that hump called Fayetteville State. So sometimes people get a little itchy. Sometimes people get a little itchy because you can't get over the hump, Brian.
I get you. I understand. David Bowser, St. Augustine. Robert Massey's the interesting one. Yeah, same hump. Robert Massey, Winston-Salem State, same hump. Interesting. You have 3 coaches that have had trouble getting over one particular school. Massey has been the interim 2 years, was just named the head coach. I know Ram Nation, the Ram alums, are not happy with what they saw, even though I believe Winston-Salem State finished the season winning a few games, if I recall correctly.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what that means for the future, but they gave him a contract, so we'll kind of see what happens. All right, let's transition over to our top 5, the BCSN computer rankings, and then I don't know. We had a bunch of. I don't know. Did we hit everything we wanted to talk on our rundown?
I think so.
Pretty much. We're getting there, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Computer rankings for this upcoming. Now, obviously, for our non-Division I ranking, we won't declare a national champion until after all the teams have finished.
Correct.
So, let's go to the. Are we all ready?
Oh, wrong graphic.
Let's go. Yeah, let's go to our computer rankings. These are the BCSN top 5. after games played November 19th. All right, first in the non-D1 level, or let's start with Division I rather. So we'll start with Division
All we have
I.
is Division One. No non-D1 because of the playoffs. We're going to hold non-Division One until after
Well, why
all the
didn't you
playoffs.
say that? You let me go through that whole spiel. You could have said that. All right, here we go. Division I. Sometimes I swear you don't listen to me, Drew. That's all right though. I'm just talking to myself.
I
All
was
right, in the
concentrating on
hunt,
the graphic.
Prairie View. I got you. Prairie View is in the hunt. Again, they've sort of left it open to another team to decide what happens, and that other team is right there with them in Southern. So Southern bye week, motivation, got a chance to play Grambling. If they beat Grambling in the Bayou, they will play Jackson State championship. If they lose, Prairie View will go to the SWAC championship game. So that's how it rolls. All right, let's go. Here we go. Top 5. Number 5. North Carolina A&T State finishes the season 7-4, 4-1, lost the last conference game of the season and lost out on a chance to go to the FCS playoffs. Congrats on your last season in the Big South A&T, and they will move over to the Colonial in football next year. 4. Alabama State.
Number 4.
Yeah. Okay. Number 4, State. They had a bye week. They host UAPB in the Turkey Day Classic on Thanksgiving Day. Have a chance to move to a 7-4 record, possibly a 5-3 overall. Worst case, I think, is they'll finish number 3 in the SWAC East. Number 3 ranked team, the Florida A&M Raptors, under head coach Willie Simmons. It is the third consecutive 9-win season. Again, let me repeat that. Third consecutive 9-win season. 9 wins in 2019, 9 wins last year in 2021, 9 wins in 2022. Unfortunately, after the win against Bethune, the season is now over. There are no playoffs this year for Florida A&M, and Coach Simmons and the Rattlers begin to put it together and try to figure out a way how to win the SWAC East next year and get a chance at playing for a SWAC title. Number 2, most likely the MEAC champion, North Carolina Central Eagles. They finished their regular season 9-2 with a 22-20 win over Tennessee Tech. So congratulations to Central. Got a chance to take on the SWAC in the Celebration Bowl on December 17th in Atlanta. And so I'm sure Eagle Nation has already scooped up and are scooping up their tickets and their travel arrangements, their hotels, and all that fun stuff. Good luck to North Carolina Central. And, of course, number 1 is Jackson State, finishing 11-0, finishing the regular season 8-0 in SWAC. So that, if you count the SWAC championship game, that's 17 consecutive SWAC wins under Coach Prime. Finished the regular season 11-0. And you got the SWAC championship game in a couple weeks. They will be hosting it against either Prairie View or Southern. And that's going to be it. Just saw EA say linebacker BJ Davis leaving South Carolina State is in the portal. Uh-oh. Interesting. There's the top 5. Jackson State, North Carolina Central, Florida A&M, Alabama State, and North Carolina A&T. And the only way, well, I don't know. We'll see what the numbers say. I don't know. There's only a 40-something point difference. So be interesting to see what a potential win by Central, how that might affect the numbers. So will we do a poll after the SWAC championship? Well, we'll probably do one next week, right? Because Alabama State is still playing, and Jackson
Got
State
Alabama
is still playing,
and Southern. And Southern.
and Southern. So who knows? Southern could pop into the top 5. So yeah, we'll have another
Southern could get into the
top
top
5.
5 with the win.
Yeah, exactly. So we could have another top 5 next week and see what happens. Drew, any talking points or anything that we missed to talk? I am gassed. I'm like punch drunk right now.
No, I know, brother, you happy just like I am that we don't have school this week. Yay, Thanksgiving break. But for all those just traveling over the Thanksgiving holidays, please be safe, enjoy your family. But most important thing is arrive to your destination alive and return back to your roots, your base place, your home now. Make sure you return back alive and in good health and good spirits. And be it the flu, be it COVID, be it we've had a bad case of strep going around. This was where I work, Brian. So just be careful out there. Make sure you still do those safety things when it comes to your health. Make sure you're washing your hands and keeping a little bit of distance because, like I said, strep is going around in the area that I live at. I don't know about down there where you live at, Brian.
Yeah, no, that's new to me, but okay. Yeah, no strep. Before we go out, we do have to mention, and we didn't mention it just because, hey, look, I mean, there wasn't much positive to say, but there are 2 schools that were in the Division II playoffs. Fayetteville State and Virginia Union scored 7 points amongst themselves. Delta State defeated Fayetteville State 51-0, and Wingate defeated Virginia Union 32-7. That was at Hovey Field in Richmond. That was probably very surprising to say the least. But now Wingate will travel to Columbia, South Carolina to take on Benedict this upcoming weekend, Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. A game in which actually myself, Jamie Walker, and Anthony Robertson will get a chance to broadcast on the Black College Sports Network and HBCU League Pass Plus. So we'll get a chance to bring that game to you. Looking forward to Benedict hosting and, yeah. So I want, before we close, I wanted to make sure to mention that and just, congratulations to Fayetteville State and Virginia Union. I mean, hey, getting to the playoffs is hard. Winning, period, is hard. So even though those games didn't turn out how we had thought or hoped, the experience is good. And so hopefully these 2 programs will continue their winning ways and they'll look to get back next year. And so it leaves us with Benedict in the regional semifinals. And we'll all root for Benedict and kind of see what they're able to do, right?
Yeah. And to put that game into perspective, Brian, between the 2 teams, like you said, they scored 7 points. And between the 2 teams, they had 4 turnovers.
In total?
In total, between the 2 teams, they had 4 turnovers.
Wow. Yeah. Well, the key to surviving is to not make mistakes and to score points.
Yes, it is.
So,
and right now, if you're a mid-major, non-Division I fan, you need to jump on the Benedict Tiger bandwagon. Having seen this team play, they have the talent to be able to make a deep playoff run. So, if you're in the Carolinas, go on to Columbia, South Carolina. Central is off this week. A&T is done. All the CIAA teams are done. Go down to support our HBCU in Columbia, South Carolina. Georgia schools, go ahead and make that ride over to South Carolina and support the Benedict Tigers.
Yeah, 1 o'clock again, Eastern time should be a good game. Will be an interesting opportunity to see Benedict and see how the week off helps them, and then to kind of see this Wingate team live, and just so I'm looking forward to being able to call that game next weekend. That's going to do it for us. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Thank you to everybody in the chat room. Real active today. Lots of good commentary and emotion. I don't think anybody got too out of control. So props to everybody in the chat rooms. Thank you watching us on YouTube and Facebook. Plenty of shows this week, though, as I know Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports air Tuesday night. O&G Strike Zone will be Wednesday night.
You guys still gonna run on Wednesday?
I'm not sure. Right now, we're still planning on, even though I know I'm trying to get to where I'm trying to get to Wednesday, early Wednesday morning. So, but yeah, we're still planning on doing something, and so we'll all be in place and be where we need to be, and then we'll see. You know, obviously Thursday. I don't know what Doc's plans are. Maybe they'll take the Thursday off.
I plan on being at the
come back.
Turkey Day Classic, even though my team's not playing it this
Okay.
year. I plan to be there as a fan.
Okay, nice. In Montgomery, Alabama, correct?
Correct. And then Saturday, I will be in Birmingham, Fairfield, Alabama, doing some basketball while you guys are doing football. I'll be doing the Miles and Clark Atlanta basketball game, men and women's doubleheader over at Miles.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you again, everybody. We appreciate the thumbs up. We appreciate the likes. Make sure to share the show with a friend. Go find the BCSN Pod Zone. For those of you who like to listen to podcasts, find the BCSN Pod Zone. It's on Amazon Music, Spotify, iHeart, Google, Apple Podcast, everywhere that you listen and download podcasts. You can find the replays of all of our shows in audio format, and you can to catch up with the commentary and keep it going. So that's going to do it. Appreciate our guest, Kelvin Rozier, for coming in and joining us in the show. And we will sign off now and wish everyone a safe and happy Thanksgiving. Until we meet again, my friends, God bless and peace out.
Hey, save me a wing, y'all. We'll holla.
But my beat stay on hard.